Hey, well, good evening. This is Pastor Chuck, and this is week 2 of our student ministry video drop. And before we get started today, I just wanted to let you know that next week, week 3, we're actually going to be doing a 15-minute or so video on Jesus' conversation with Nicodemus in John chapter 3. So I want to encourage you to maybe read that text, all of chapter 3, before next week, and we'll go over that together. But definitely want to call your attention to what he says here is that Nicodemus comes and kind of flatters Jesus and says, hey, we know all these things about you, but Jesus kind of cuts to the point and says, you must be born again, Nicodemus. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what that means. But this week, I have Mr. Jason Nolan with us. And what do you do here at the church, Jason?
I am now head of maintenance,
all right,
which is very cool. I also do a lot of cleaning still, though.
Okay.
So,
a little maintenance,
cleaning up, yeah, setting up for activities. Like if we have VBS, unfortunately we had to do that online this year, but that's usually a lot of work, and I'm fortunate to have my family helps me.
Yeah,
with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, man, I always see your family up here helping.
Yeah, I kind of joke that when they hired me, they get like 6 people out of it for some of the big events.
Yeah, so essentially Jason keeps the building going. Without him, we would not be able to get things done, and if we would, we'd be scurrying last minute. So he keeps things running, so every time you see him, make sure you tell him thank you. Tell me a little bit about your family. Are you married?
Yes, married to my wife, Juana. We've been married for 3 years now, so still a pretty fresh marriage. But it still feels really great. It feels like we've been married a lot longer than that. Not in a bad way, like, oh, I've been married this person forever, but in a way that, like, it's kind of like, dude, what were we ever doing when we weren't married together? Because, like, what we have now is so great.
Yeah.
And, such a blessing from the Lord.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then my dad works here, Andrew, so my stepfather, so he kind of helped me get in here some, because he's always had a presence here at the church, and things weren't working out for me at my last job, and so I was kind of like, man, I'd love to work at the church. Like, there's got to be something for me there, even if it's anything, so that's when I started cleaning. Right,
and now you're moved up into the maintenance area, and so now he's doing some plumbing and electrical. And
super fun.
Yeah, man.
I'm both sarcastic and serious about that. It's like every day is something exciting, and you get to learn, so.
And with some of the current remodel, you're doing miles and miles of 6-inch rubber cove base at the bottom of the walls, right?
Yeah, it looks great when it's done. It's a little monotonous, but it's getting there. It's worth it.
Well, we do appreciate you, and you do a good job around the church. So tell me a little bit, this series that we're getting ready to do over the next few weeks is going to be a lot on like testimonies, how God has saved us, what He's done in our lives, kind of what that story looks like, and then how, and then on our teaching side of it, like with Nicodemus or the woman at the well, we're going to be talking about Jesus' interaction with people. So tell us, what's your testimony?
I mean, I've kind of always been around the church. Like I said, with my stepdad Andrew and him being married to my mom, so I'm very blessed to always have that background, because a lot of people aren't that fortunate to just have family that can help introduce them to that. For me, it was more, I grew up with it, I'd come here to the youth group, but it was just kind of something I did. I had accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, but I wouldn't say He was a focal point in my life, like actually a main. He's supposed to be the priority. He wasn't even a main priority. And it wasn't until I had graduated high school and I moved out, and I lived on my own with my stepbrother, and I was around people that didn't care about me. I was around horrible influences. I was living in a terrible place, and I was going through a lot of emotional stuff with relationships that just weren't working out. It felt like everything was just collapsing in on itself.
Caving in on you a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it was at that point I started to pray intensely, like every night. Like I was just so depressed, and I would pray every night, because it reached that point. It was like God was all I had left, So I wanted to give that a shot and give it my everything. And it was hard at first. Because, God doesn't just like, bam, answer all your prayers. It took a couple years, but then it was like all of a sudden, when I thought maybe God might have been saying no, which sometimes he does, he was actually just saying, not yet, wait.
Right.
And then around the time I met my wife, it was like he was just answering all my prayers back to back to back. Or if I didn't get something, I understood, like, even if I had that, I wouldn't have been ready for it. And just really helping me with my perspective in life and what's important. And I think God allowed me to hit that rock bottom. Unfortunately, I hate knowing that about myself, but if that didn't happen to me, I don't think the Lord would have been able to get my attention. I think I would have been so caught up in everyday life. So.
Okay. Now, what's God currently doing in your life that you're excited about?
A lot of stuff with family, because not all of my family is saved, and that's pretty hard for me. I would obviously love for that. And so it's been great because I'm no pastor or anything, but I've sort of got Juana, my wife, into the church, and then we've kind of been discipling to her sister. Mm-hmm. Now Maria's engaged in the church, and I'm like, the person she is now, the changes she's made in her life, I'm so proud of her and very impressed. It's amazing what God can do. And then now their sister Angelica, so they're kind of raised Catholic, and Angelica's finally like, okay, I want to actually read the Bible. I've never read the Bible. And so now Monday nights, we're going over to Rosa's, Juana's mother's, and I'm leading the Bible discussion, and then they're translating for her. And I love that too, because it just shows like language doesn't have to be a barrier for the Holy Spirit. And it's just so beautiful to see the Bible is translated in so many different ways and languages that they need. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Very cool. Now, I know you're into gaming and virtual reality games, VR as you like to call them, and that you, at one time at least, had a YouTube channel of some kind. What's your favorite thing about kind of the gaming, virtual reality?
I think there's probably two things. I think one of them would have to be the experience that you get to have with other people. Right.
Especially on the online gaming.
Yeah, it's so cool so you get off work for the day, and you can go, you and your buddy, you just gear up to go fight, a dragon. It's ridiculous, and it's super hard, but there's one guy, his name is Cedric, that I've been gaming with online for years. We've never actually met in person, but we met on a game, and our teamwork, we just noticed, we're just great as a team, and because of that, we play games almost every night together, and we feel really, really close as friends, even though we haven't met face to face.
That's crazy, do you know where Cedric's from?
I don't. Okay. He's told me a couple years ago.
Yeah,
it's just like...
Yeah, but people from all over the world even can be gaming.
I know he lives really far north, on the northern edge of the U.S. I can't remember.
Yeah, but not somebody back. A little bit different from when, I was younger, and basically what you did is you went and you played Mario by yourself, and maybe you had a buddy in the neighborhood who could come down the street and play. Yeah, they'd be Luigi and you'd be Mario.
Because you give them the worst character.
Of course,
man.
Yeah, it's my game, right? I get controller number one.
Right.
Yeah.
And especially in VR too, the way you get to interact with people when you add your actual hand movements and where your head's looking at, it's really cool being able to socialize. And then the other aspect is, I used to do a lot of art, and I liked designing characters, either creatures that are kind of scary or just cool action-looking characters. And so I love seeing in video games, you get to kind of step into someone else's imagination for a little bit. Okay, let's see what you were thinking of, and I get to see a design that they did in a character's shoulder, or how the skin blends into the armor, just something cool they came up with, and I'm like, oh, I never would have thought of that. That's awesome. So.
Well, it's one of the reasons I love to be in a place that's just beautiful, right? Because it's sort of like God's artwork.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, you know what I mean? You'll be out and see some, I don't know, small hills, but a countryside with different things going on in water and different animals and things, and it's kind of peaceful, in a way. That's awesome. And we'll finish up with this because I know his time is valuable, but what is something that God's maybe laid on your heart to do in the future that he's kind of calling you to do you think?
That is a tricky question. I have an answer for that, but if there's one thing recent times have taught me is that oftentimes what God does for us in the future is far greater. Like what His plans are for us is far greater than often what I can even imagine or come up with. So, you know, I just got a promotion, and so it's like I haven't been thinking too much about that. I've really been focusing on, like I said, my family, and then really just making sure as long as I'm where God needs me to be, and I feel like I'm of use and I'm helpful and I have opportunities to volunteer at the church and share my faith with people. I would obviously like to do more of that in the future. I think, unfortunately, I would have to start pursuing an education to make a lot of this reality. But I think I would really enjoy being a counselor. Would be really great because for some reason, ever since I was younger, people wanted to. I was that person people always wanted to open up to me. Share all their secrets with and share all their problems and kind of like that shoulder to cry on, I guess. Yeah. And I feel bad now looking back because I'm like, man, if I had the faith that I have now, I could have, offered way better lifelong advice for these people. Sometimes they do just need someone to talk to. Sure. You just need to listen. But instead of just, oh man, that's really hard, I'm sorry. That's good. People need to hear that. But then, to be able to like, hey, this has really helped me. I hope this can help you. Would have been nice to be able to try.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I know, sometimes God calls us to something, and it's almost like a picture, right? Like a lens, where, you start to try to take your picture, and that this is the area you want to take a picture of, right? God's kind of like, okay, I know this part. And then as time goes by and circumstances, He starts to kind of tighten that picture a little bit into focus, and then it becomes clear as you go, but you have to just kind of follow by faith at the time and just let Him lead where He wants you to go. So, well, Jason, anything else you wanna share with us about yourself other than you're an avid dancer?
Yes, I'm not a good dancer, but I can't stop. So
yeah, man, the rhythm really did get him, and so Gloria Estefan was right. So.
Again, I would say if anybody sees me in the halls, feel free to say hi. So
yeah,
I'd love to be social and everything. Sometimes people see me and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you work at the church." I'm like, "Dude, I've been here for a couple years." So
yeah, man. Well, thanks for joining us, and like I say, next week we'll be talking about Nicodemus in John chapter 3. And once again, thanks, Jason, for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it, man.